Acids are defined as proton donors, and since a proton is a positively charged hydrogen ion, an acid is a compound which has a positively charged hydrogen ion within its structure. In this video, we will discuss the reactions of acids with bases, metals, or metal carbonates. Let's look at the reactions of acids with bases. A base is defined as a metal oxide or a metal hydroxide. Now, metals are atoms which have 1, 2, or 3 valence electrons, and they tend to lose these valence electrons to become positively charged ions. There are also some transition metals that you should be familiar with. For example, iron, which has the symbol Fe, or copper, which has the symbol Cu. Now, if a metal is followed by oxygen, we have our metal oxide. And if that metal is followed by OH, we have our metal hydroxide. So when we look at the formula for a compound, we should be able to tell if that substance is a base. When an acid and a base reacts, the products are salt and water. Let's try this first reaction. We have sodium found in group 1, means it has 1 valence electron, means it's a metal, and it's followed by OH. So we have sodium hydroxide. Sodium hydroxide is our base, and we also have HCl, hydrochloric acid. Recall that acids are proton donors, so hydrochloric acid will ionize and give off its hydrogen ion. To form a salt, the metal from the base replaces the hydrogen, so the sodium ion and the chloride ion will combine to form the salt. The remaining ions would be the hydroxide ion and the proton, which would come together to form water. So, sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid reacts to form sodium chloride and water. And the acid and the base will react to form a salt and water. In our second example, we have nitric acid and calcium oxide. We know calcium oxide is a base because calcium is a metal, it's followed by oxygen, so that's a metal oxide. Metal oxides are bases. Once again, we'll see that the acid ionizes, it's going to give off its proton, and during the reaction to form the salt, the metal ion will replace the hydrogen. The salt that will be formed is calcium nitrate, and the other product of this reaction is water. Next, let's take a look at the reaction between an acid and a metal. Now remember, metals are atoms that have 1, 2, or 3 valence electrons, and we also have some transition metals. Again, some examples might be zinc, copper, iron. When an acid and a metal reacts, the products are a salt and hydrogen gas. In this example, we have carbonic acid and potassium. A salt is formed in exactly the same way as before. The acid will ionize and the metal will take the place of the proton. The salt is formed as a product of this reaction is therefore potassium carbonate. We would have already used the carbonate ion and the potassium ion to form the salt, so all that's left back would be the hydrogen ions, and our second product of the reaction is hydrogen gas. For a second example, we have sulfuric acid reacting with magnesium. The products must be a salt and hydrogen gas, and again, acid is going to ionize and the metal will take the place of the protons. The salt that is formed is magnesium sulfate, and the second product, hydrogen gas. The final reaction of acids that we will discuss is the reactions of acids with carbonates. Carbonates are somewhat easy to identify. because they have the carbonate ion within their structure. We can have calcium carbonate, sodium carbonate, or even magnesium carbonate. When an acid reacts with a carbonate, the products are salt, water, and carbon dioxide. In our first example, we have sulfuric acid reacting with magnesium carbonate. As always, the acid will ionize and the metal ion will replace the proton. The salt that is formed from this reaction is therefore magnesium sulfate, and the remaining products are carbon dioxide and water. Our second example is between hydrochloric acid and calcium carbonate. The acid will ionize and the metal ion will take the place of the proton. The salt that will be formed from this reaction is calcium chloride, and the remaining products carbon dioxide and water. So remember, the three types of reactions that you should be familiar with are the reaction between an acid and a base, that would give salt and water as products, the reaction between acid and a metal, that would give salt and hydrogen gas, and finally the reaction between an acid and a carbonate, which would give salt, water, and carbon dioxide. Before you go, please note that the reaction between an acid and metal and acid and carbonate both produce gases. To confirm the presence of these gases, we can use a lit splint to test for the presence of hydrogen gas, and a positive result is a squeaky pop. And we can use lime water to test for the presence of carbon dioxide. The lime water will become milky when carbon dioxide is bubbled through it.